Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us and hope you like what you hear. So today we've got another interview with a very interesting guy from Toronto. His name is Emmanuel Manolakakis. He has written a book which is called Eudaimonia. It's a book about improvement, and it kind of goes through the stories of his life and what he's learned. He's been a very active guy. He runs his own business. He teaches martial arts in Toronto, active in sports early in his life, has raised two kids, has got a lot of life lessons. And I think you're going to be really pleased with his approach to life and the advice that he has to offer to all of us. So, without further ado, let's bring Emmanuel on now. So, Emmanuel, welcome to Salty Ginger Talk. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So, you and I connected a couple of weeks ago and had a great
Yeah.
conversation. We've very much been looking forward to the episode. We have some commonalities, but you also have, I think, a very unique viewpoint, and you wrote a book about it, and we'll get into that through
Yeah,
our conversation. But if you wouldn't
sure.
mind, just give our listeners a brief background of, kind of your adult life up until
Yeah.
now, and
Okay.
then we'll jump in.
Okay. So I can go through the whole bio, but maybe I'll just skip that. Essentially, I mean, you can find out all about me if people want. I mean, I'm all over social media. My life's pretty open. I run a martial art club. I run a martial art club for about 25 years now. Uh, I teach martial arts, but not just martial arts. I teach quite a bit more than that. I've done a lot of sports through my life, so I'm pretty much a varsity athlete. And then I had this side hobby, which was martial arts the whole time, and I just kept it going all my life. And it shapes you, right? Like I tell people, when you do something that you love, you don't just do it, but you allow it to change you. You allow it to shape you. You have to kind of almost give it that permission, right? So that's what it did. And in the whole process, the whole thing of opening my own business was never something in my cards. It was all a fluke, which I'm not joking. I never had any ambition of being an entrepreneur or having a martial arts school. I just loved training. But what ended up happening was I got married and I moved about an hour away from my instructor and the school where I used to teach at. And then I'm like, okay, with kids coming, this is not going to work, right? Like you can't travel 1 hour, train for an hour and a half, then travel, you'll be gone for half a day. It doesn't work, right? So I said, well, if I want to keep training, I have to start my own small group here that I can at least supplement my training. So maybe travel once a week or once a month to up north to where my instructor was, and then just supplement my own training with time. And I remember I found a little basement. It was 600 square feet, man. It was crazy. And there were two poles in the middle. It was all part of the training, like you have to fight and watch out for these steel poles. And I honestly, if I got 5 or 10 students, I would have been absolutely ecstatic, right? Well, I got that in a couple of months, and outgrew that space. And next thing you know, I said, okay, well, I gotta rent a bigger space, about 1,000, 1,500 square feet, and and then just do it part time. Like I'll have like 3 classes a week, and I still had a full-time job. I was a manager and a director at a phone company, and so then I had and my club started to grow, and as it grew, and I had 2 jobs. I had 2 things I'm doing. I had one in the daytime, one in the nighttime, and eventually my daytime, the one where I worked at the phone company, kind of disappeared. But the perspective it gave me was all these things that happened in my life were all like very, very, they taught me stuff, but I didn't know at the time. Like being being a manager in a big phone company taught me so much about coaching people, about teaching people, about what people care about what their real stresses are in life. Like, forget about what some people tell you. Like, the reality is, if you're not saying bad things or doing bad things or going to bad places, you're probably pretty good in North America. I mean, yes, bad stuff can happen, but generally, if you're pretty respectful and you watch what you do, trouble won't find you. But that overlying premise in life where nobody's going to screw you up, Joe, more than yourself. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, nobody's beat me up more than I've done to myself, right? So I saw that play out in the business world. I saw that play out with my friends. I saw it in my athletic career, right? I saw all this stuff happening. So, then I started run a martial art club, and that was my kind of pushed into the fire of entrepreneurship. And luckily, and it really is, this is the balance of luck in life, right? Luckily, it was a great time to start a business in Toronto. It was just Toronto was booming. It was so much going on. This was 2003, right? 2003. It was booming. It was just so much going on, right? And I had started martial arts back in 1995, so it's been a while, right? So I already had done martial arts for quite a while. But what was interesting, and then here I am, this martial artist, and here I'm this business guy, and I went to university, and I was a varsity athlete, and I was in the gym all the time, and over time, your perspective starts to change. And I think what I want to share with your listeners, and what I want to share with people in the martial art world as well, and even in life in general, is you're not going to be the same person you are. You're going to be changing. Like, I can't keep going on a train and just imagining bad people. But they're not. They're good people that want to grow personally. They want to develop. They want to challenge themselves. There's no point in thinking, having old thinking and wanting to see things differently, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, how many of us, like even to the listeners, if I can ask them a question now, how many of you are tired of what you do? Like, if I simply ask that question, everyone will raise their hand.
Mm.
If I teach a seminar, hundreds of students, and I say, before I even start, people I've never met before, how many of you are tired with what you do and what you say? Everybody. I go, well, that's because you've changed, but you're still in the cycle of repeating things over and over and over. Well, allow yourself to change, allow yourself to see things differently. And I just did that. And, in the martial art world with a club like Fight Club, to, that's what my club's called. You would think you're going to get all kinds of, ruffians coming in, but right away, and they do, but right away I turned to him and said, but you have to fight yourself first. And if you can fight yourself, you can fight other people.
Hmm.
But if you can't fight yourself, and you're not allowed to fight other people, like you show me that you're willing to fight yourself, and you can do that in many ways. It's amazing. One military guy I know, I said, how did they find out who the leader was in your special forces group? It was very easy. They put us in a push-up, top of a push-up. We held the top of a push-up, 20 of us. And then the guy left. The captain left. It was, and he just put a camera on. He walked out of the room. Nobody even, he just left. And he goes, he came back 20 minutes later. There was still five of us holding a push-up, and he walked away. The last guy up holding that push-up was like 37 minutes. That was the leader. Straight out. It's all about don't give up. And
Right.
who you follow, that guy is not going to give up, right? It's tough. I'm not saying it's easy, but look how easy that was. How easy that was. It's just how much can you endure, right? And then everybody sees it and knows that you won't give up easy, so they trust you. If they trust you, you can lead them, right? So I had this fortune of being trained by some military people, but not being a military guy, being in athletics, but not going past like a varsity athlete, not going into like a professional ranks, right? I wasn't that good. I wasn't talented. I worked hard, right? And then the same, here you have, like you said, I said Fight Club, right? Just martial art club. Well, I just made people fight themselves. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful club blossomed. And it's still here to this day. It's still growing. It's still dynamic. I'm still changing, right? But look what's funny, Joe. The funny thing is I'm happy, but other people unhappy because I'm happy.
Yeah. Right.
It's like if I was a musician and I was playing my song, imagine you said to me, well, that's oh, you're paying Johnny Cash. Oh, that's terrible. That's not me. What do you I'm happy playing Johnny Cash. If I'm happy playing, leave me alone, right?
Right.
But what? Yeah, exactly. But people, they listen. I understand if you walk around saying you're the biggest, baddest, toughest guy. Okay, You're asking for it, so to speak. But if somebody's not doing that, they're simply just doing their thing. I simply allow students to come in, train with me. If they like it, to please stay and train more. I have a really open policy. There's nothing, there's no coercion. And people are unhappy because it's not focusing on the entertainment version of martial arts. I'm not entertaining people. It's like that. Remember Gladiator? Are you not entertained?
Yeah, right.
It's not an entertainer, man. And this exactly parallels life. It's exactly parallels life. It's so interesting. We're such unique people. We dress ourselves, we go to different places. We're allowed to be unique. And there's beautiful power in us being unique, right? I love that. I want to see somebody that's saying their own things and thinking their own things and sharing that with people. So this idea of personal development and creative expression as you go on in life is very important. And all of this accumulated as soon as the pandemic hit, because I was just going, Joe, I was teaching class. I was teaching like 3 hours a day. As a teacher, that's a lot for martial arts.
Mm,
I was running a class in the afternoon, two in the evening, one for kids, one for adults. And so I was doing a lot. Pandemic slowed me down. We didn't stop training. We kept training. We were training outside and things like that, but it slowed me down. And now I said, okay, I've always been meaning to write a book. I started writing a book. And it really hit me when I really looked at my journey from being a kid right up until that moment. And I saw all these lessons that were being taught to me. I said, you know what? I understand people want to see me write a martial art book because that's what I do. And in the community I'm in, I've been around for a while, so I see that. But I really realized I don't think people understand the stories, the situations, the environment that shaped me,
mm,
right? So if I loved an artist, I the first part of listening to a music artist is that you maybe listen to the words. But if you really love the artist, you try to understand the conditions that created those words or created that song. Like what was the situation that gave you the inspiration to write that song? That will tell you more than just the words. The words are going to be the words and that's it, right? So the book started to be a collection of my stories and things that have shaped me. And in the hopes that telling everybody that the same thing has happened to you, connect the dots, like connect the dots that have happened in your life. The things that, the reason I'm a teacher now and the reason I should be teaching, I can't even run away from teaching, even if I tried. People will tell you I'm meant to teach. And why? Because I didn't have good teachers when I was young.
mm,
I didn't. That's what I didn't have. So parents that grew up during the war years, especially World War II, they always later they tried to give their kids food and shelter and safety. They didn't have those things, so they wanted to give what they didn't have. So I'm trying to give to students what I didn't have. And as a good teacher, proper, all that stuff I never had, right? So when I was writing the book and doing some research, I'm Greek by background. My background is Greek. And I stumbled across, I don't even know how. For me, sometimes when you're in a culture, you don't study it as much because you always grow up around it. Um, I always heard of the greats, Socrates, Aristotle, but I never really got deep into them. I knew of them, right? But I read this quote in Aristotle and I came across a word called eudaimonia. And the translation of this word was the highest human good. And at first I was like, wow, that's actually what I'm trying to have people learn through the martial art is to take this skill and use it for the highest human good. Now, listen, it doesn't mean destroying somebody. It means doing what's necessary for the situation, right? The highest human good on it. And then I kind of shrugged it off. I was like, that's kind of gave me creepies because it kind of like he had words that were written thousands of years ago to exactly pinpoint what I was trying to do, but I never had those words.
mm.
But then like an instructor who's since passed, Michael Ryabko is his name, and he was a military man in Russia, and he passed away a couple of years ago. A huge mentor of mine, incredible teacher, incredibly skilled martial artist. You never know it by looking at him, just incredible. And this, he always said, he goes, you know, do good things with things. Just don't he goes, think of people like an egg, he used to say. That you want to break the shell of anger or tension or what they're trying to do to you, but don't destroy the yolk inside. Because people are usually pretty good inside. And he was very right about that. It's true. People that are kind of bad inside, there's some goodness there for some of them, right? And study how to break the shell, not destroy the whole egg, which is what and he made me understand the difference between the entertainment version of martial arts and the professional version of martial arts. He was a soldier. You have every person that you destroy, you kill, takes you further from yourself. That's the truth, and I believe this wholeheartedly, right? So he gave me a lot of military background, but he always had this thing about good, good, good. And then there's Aristotle, highest human good. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then I read a line after that where Aristotle believed that a man's virtues were fully formed by age of 51. And I was exactly 51. I was like, okay, I got goosebumps telling you now. And I said, okay, this is the book I got to write. And, I wrote this, and some of your listeners might say, well, maybe these guys that do one thing, work out or play a certain sport. I'm definitely not a one-trick pony. And I have mastered many things. Martial arts, one of them, archery is another one. So as I got good in martial arts, I needed a new hobby now because martial arts was my hobby. And so I picked up archery. It took me about 10 or 15 years, but I slowly mastered that without a coach. I did it all on my own, no coach. I simply mastered that. And to this day, I'm competing nationally in Canada. And I'll be going international this year as well and doing very well, medaling gold, bronze, silvers all the time. And the art of archery and the stillness that has to exist inside you, the mental game. That's what we talked about this with the Leafs. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
that's right.
Give me those guys for a year, man. I'll get their minds in the right shape. It people can never underestimate the mind. That when you look at an athlete from beginning to amateur, you can get away with toughness and physical training, but intermediate to advanced levels, we're talking like NHL, big level stuff that everybody can dribble, everybody can shoot, everybody can do this stuff without it's what difference is game and what's in their mind, right? It's incredible how they see the game, their eyesight, the way they process it in their head. And this is what I kind of want to bring to your listeners is this like idea of like taking what you do and remembering that you're an artist, right? Do the highest level of that thing. I mean, I didn't start like that for me. I'm not like I'm gonna walk around and just poof, I became this thing. It was every year I just wanted to do it better, right? And and then you keep going down that road. Every time it just slowly better and better and better. Now it's easy with archery because it's a score, but it's hard in martial arts because people are so different, situations are so different. It's hard to measure it, right? So you have to have metrics that are soft metrics, like feeling metrics, and then others that are hard metrics, right? Like if I'm running, I got to see my time, my heart rate, and this, but then I also have to pay attention to how my body feels, right? And understand my body through feeling. So, this is where I think this idea of happiness, this idea of creative expression, and this idea of finding what you really should be doing in life. Like, not everybody should be teaching, not everybody should be a doctor, not everybody should be a lawyer. Like, I don't know if you have some friends like this. I have a friend who's a lawyer. It's like, there's no way they should be a lawyer, right? Another friend who's a doctor and he hates sick people. This is terrible. Like, this is absolutely terrible. Like and I get how it gets there. I get it. Like I sure how many runny noses and golf balls in your ear are you supposed to look at and be inspired, right? It's tough. But to the listeners listening, remember, I've done like mindless work. I've had those jobs. Okay, my first job at Bell was picking up the phone and listening to people complaining about their cell phones, and this is back when they were suitcases,
Hmm.
right? This is back like a long time. They were friggin' mad, man. And they would, my entire day, if those listeners now listening to this, try to imagine a job you did for 5 years, guys, 5 years. People, you're going to work for 8 hours in a cubicle, and you know people are going to be yelling at you all day. They don't know you. They're ready to tear you to pieces, and you're expected to be happy about this. I look back now, I can't even explain it to my kids. It's terrible. And that teaches you, and what did that teach me? How to let things go. Like let that go. Like people, this is how people are. Some people are just they just need this, right? So each of those jobs, each of those things I learned about how to kind of, no expertise in managing, I figured it out. No expertise in martial arts, but I figured it. No expertise in entrepreneurship, but I figured it out. Then no expertise in archery, but I figured it out. And I'm still going through it now. There's more things that I'm continually going because this is not some sort of quest to prove something. It's what we were meant to do. Like this is what's inspires us. Life is it should be our inspiration, right? And for me, I'm trying to maybe inspire people to um, be precise, be happy too. Like you can't fake this stuff. You can't fake happy, right? You got to kind of find the things that you love to do. You ever had a dog, Joe?
I love dogs. I've got one right
I
now.
love that. So I'm just what I'm saying is I never had a lab. I have a dog as well, but my brother-in-law he used to have this lab, and that dog, if it saw water, it couldn't resist.
Hmm.
I remember like how happy this dog was when it saw water. And at one time I was walking this dog, I was walking it, and it was a puddle, Joe. It was a mud puddle. Okay. And I thought there's no way. Like that's not real water. That's like a mud puddle. That's not the dog looked at me, looked at me, looked at me. I was like, what? And he just douche and went straight in, covered himself in mud. I'm like, how many of us have take the time to find something like that much that you love,
Right.
right? That much that you love. And then if you love it, don't make it an escape. It's not an escape. Master the damn thing. Like take the time, do some research, take it bit by bit, let it change you, let it shape you, right? I told you I have to, I'm not a big golf fan, but I like golf, but I'm not a big golf fan, right? But I'm getting at that age now where if I want to see my friends, my high school friends now, they're all golfing.
Sure.
So I'll never see them if I don't pick up this thing. So I've got to start golfing. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to like this and not that I hate it, but it's just, so now I'm taking that on now. So there's another hobby, there we go again, right? But for good reasons, because it makes me happy to be around them,
Sure. Yeah.
right? Yeah, this is critical. So these things of like archery, martial arts, entrepreneurship, being a father with two kids and raising them, and then being a teacher, not just to adults, but to kids as well. Like that's a hard. Remember Kung Fu Panda? That was Kung Fu Panda 2. The challenge was this is the biggest one, man. You got to teach kids, and there's with adults, you get upset with them, you can throw them across the room, and that's fine. But the kids, you can't do that to the kids. They're so sensitive, like, and they're kids, of course they are, but it's not to say that they don't get under our skin, right?
Makes me think
Um,
of there's a Seinfeld episode where Kramer took karate and he was taking a karate
yes,
class with
yes.
like 9-year-olds. He's just dominating the class because he's, 45 years old in the class.
Uh, yeah, for sure. I've seen this. I've seen this.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful. So people often ask me when I started teaching kids, it was like this was one of those things about other people. In the At that time, if you started teaching kids, it was kind of like seen as a money grab for businesses. Like it's kind of like, well, it's easy. Parents pay lots of money, and you just start a kids program. And in many cases, many martial arts schools are kind of get by because of a strong youth program. But it was thought that it softens your art, like it kind of like now you're selling out, so to speak.
Mm.
So for years, I didn't have a kids program, right? But what ended up happening was, again, this is life coming for me, right? I was trying to avoid it. But the adult students I had were going home, teaching their kids what I taught them, just like all good parents do. And they were coming and saying, Manny, they love this stuff. You should really teach kids this. Nah, no, no, forget this. Nah, and then finally I said, okay, I'll try it. And I got six boys. And some of them I still know. They're adults now. They're married and kids. That's how long ago this is, right? And 2 years it took me. 2 years, Joe. It took me to figure out how to teach kids my way. And your listeners might say, well, what's my way? My way is, if I looked at the kids like kids, I can't teach them. But if I looked at a kid and said, how do I want you to be at 21? Like I would visualize. There's the kid. What do I want him to look like at 21? How do I want him to be? What do I need him to know? What will like so it allowed me to say, okay, so now I'm kind of helping somebody get to somewhere. Because honestly, by the time you figure out a kid at 8 years old, they've changed at nine. They've
That's
changed at
right.
10.
Yep.
Like they're changing so fast. Like, why bother figuring it out? It's like, why are you going to buy a set of $300 Nikes for a 1 year old? The feet are going to grow. Like, they're not actually going to wear those shoes.
Yeah.
They see people buying clothes that your kid's going to be done that in like a Canada Goose jacket, $1,000 jacket for like a 1 year old. It lasts about 6 months, right? So when I figured that out, then the most interesting thing happened. So I'd have a kids class, then I'd have an adult class right after, and pretty much right through the week. And what I would notice was I could look at a kid and I said, you're like that guy. Like I could connect the dots and I could look at an adult student. I said, that's probably the kid you were. Like I could see this
Mm.
connection. And I used it as a sometimes with some parents. I said, see your boy right here? Because yeah, I go, if you leave him the way he is now, he's gonna look like that guy. That's my opinion. And they were like, some of them were shocked, right? I said, I'm just telling you, I teach both of them and they have a connection, right? And yeah, that changed some parents' ideas of how they saw their kids, right? But what's so interesting because with adults, yes, we grow up, but look at a group of men and watch them get together with their buddies and you swear, like even me with my friends, like we don't change that much, man. We still talk like that talk, but the way we used to bug each other in high school, we still do that. Like it's still, we
Sure.
didn't
Yeah, of course.
forget, right? It's very, some of the athletes I played with at York, I still see them now, and we still bug each other just like we did back in the 90s, right? It was nuts. So there is crossover, and I learned better how to teach adults because I understood kids. I got way more patient with the adults because I developed it with the kids. And then the kids taught me about vision. Like, okay, you're here and I see you at 21. Well, here's a 40-year-old. I need to see you at like 55. Like what attributes are you going to need, right? Because health, this is the other thing. Like you see people going to the gym, and I've been going to the gym most of my life, man. It's been a lifetime in the gym. Like there's nothing I haven't seen. But now, over the age of 50, health is not muscular, it's cellular. The illnesses people get, the cancers, the heart disease. Yes, you need muscles, of course, it helps you. But the problems I hear my friends have, they're like thyroid, they're like it's a whole other host of things. So health and wellness is much more than just muscle building and some flexibility. It's mindset, it's diet, it's all that stuff. It's blood work, it's urine work, it's all that stuff that dictates how you're doing because stuff starts to come out as you get older and you just have to figure it out. So when I'm teaching older, and I don't mean older, like they can still do stuff. Like I'm 55, I can still roll with my 20-year-olds, not a problem. But it's not where I should be. That's the reality. The
Yep.
reality is the biggest danger for me is, as you get older, like all of us, is more the internal stuff. So yes, we can train and have fun, but we should be focused on what matters most to us. And that's another problem I see. People don't know what really matters. Make sure you know what matters to you, because if you don't know that, well, I'm not sure what you're doing anything for, right?
Right. So look,
So
guys, so Emmanuel, so one of the things I do is kind of recap themes when I talk to
yeah,
people just to make sure they don't
sure.
go unnoticed. by our listeners. Now,
Sure.
you do a great job of calling them out and addressing them to the listeners, which I appreciate. But just one comment. I did note that you break consistently the first rule of Fight Club, which is don't talk about Fight Club, and you talk about Fight Club all the time. So if in fact you run across Tyler Durden, you're going to be in trouble, right? You know that. But
I did meet Brad Pitt though. I
oh,
did
did
meet
you?
Brad Pitt, and I did a bodyguard gig for Angelina Jolie. It was really interesting. It was really
Nice.
nice.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
very
So
interesting people. Yeah, Brad. Yeah, yeah. But I never met Norton.
yeah, there you go. So look, guys, I swear to God, we didn't coach or tell Emmanuel what to say. All of our conversations with all of our guests are organic. We don't tell
Mhm.
anyone what to come on and talk about. But like you hit so many of the themes we talk about, Emmanuel, on a regular basis. So
Great.
you
Yeah.
you you took action in your life. You didn't really know while you were taking action all of the skills and abilities that you were learning or what it was leading you to, but you consistently took action and consistently tried to improve yourself, and it's led you to a place that you really enjoy at this point in your life, and you're really happy with a lot of the things that you've got going on. You talked about mindset, how important mindset
Yep.
is. You talked about physical health. You talked about how mindset contributes to physical health. You talked about trying to do things as good as, like, what's the point of doing something if you're not going to try your best? Like, why would you do it? Like, don't
Yep.
half ass it. You got to whole ass everything that you're doing.
And
And
and don't stress about it.
yeah,
You just take it chunk by chunk. Doing something great is should be a joy for you. Just slowly.
yep. And you
Yeah.
commit to things when you do them. So, like, I want to spend a little bit of time on martial arts just because we haven't had
Yep.
anyone on the program yet that's talked about martial arts. And I don't
Okay.
want to talk technique, I want to talk mentality a little bit.
Yes.
What was it initially that attracted? So, you were, let's start a little bit back. What other sports did you play when you were in high school?
So high school football, American football, not the European football, American football, rugby, wrestled as well. Wrestling team was back there. Um, Played a lot of baseball when I was younger.
Yep.
I was a lot of baseball when I was younger, so I really enjoyed those sports. But then later, as I got, I just started work out more. The American football felt great, and then wrestling was awesome, and then rugby really called to me. It was a sport, and then I ended up playing rugby in varsity in university at York University. So I played
Nice.
rugby there, and then I played summer league. Yeah, it was great, and then an injury hit me, and that's what stopped my career. So I blew up my right knee, which is very common. This is
Yeah.
it's a common thing because especially in North America, a sport like rugby, which was really kind of unique. It wasn't that unique, but it was definitely not common. It's kind of played like American football, really rough. But then when you watch it played in England or something, there's a lot more skill. Especially the beginning level, there's a lot more skill taught. So you're taught the proper technique of taking and giving tackles, which is where usually people either hurt their shoulder or their neck or something, right? So for me, it was my knee, and then it cut my career short after that. But I always did martial arts through the whole thing for sure.
Yeah. What was it about martial arts that initially attracted you?
Well, so I was 15 and I was in high school and I'm only 5'8". Like I'm not a big dude, 5'8", 100, 180 pounds. And people call me sturdy. That's the best way to describe me. It's another way of saying short and wide, right? Um, uh, and I realized, there's some big guys here and, it was a lot of bravado and I didn't know how to fight. And I was like, so I started taking just at a local martial art club. And I remember being in awe of the black belts, like because back then the classes were structured where front line was just a traditional karate school, Shotokan. It was like there's a black belts in the front and the white belts, towards the back, and you're watching everybody and the precision with which everybody had. At that time where I was living in a just outside of Toronto, it was like 30 minutes outside of Toronto. It was only two things, like a kung fu school and a karate school, and the karate school was pretty hardcore. So that attracted me because I was playing rugby and wrestling. So and I kept showing up, and I admired such dedication. Like there were people there that were just so dedicated and studying it for many years as I got there, and I was like, it really inspired me. But I still had this athletic calling, so I was always playing a lot of different sports. Like I injured myself around 23, so I started. like say karate at 15, right? So, and then I was at university, so there was a lot going on. So I wasn't 100% in on the martial arts, but it was something I loved and I kept it. I always kept that training. And then after I injured myself and I had about a year off till I recovered from my knee, then I started saying maybe I'm gonna get back into it with a little bit different mindset, a little bit like it's my main thing. And I kind of then that's what really honed it in for me, right? And I think I have that temperament, like every young man has that. It was a lot of you're not angry, but when you're young, you've got a lot of piss and vinegar in you, right? And I liked how I would take it out in the training, and then when I went out at night with my friends to a bar or a club, I I didn't want to fight. I mean, there was a lot.
Yep.
If you want to find a fight, you'll find one. It's not that hard, right? But I was the last. I was the only one of my friends that knew really how to fight, and I was the last one. I because I got all my mojo or my tension out in training.
Sure.
So and it humbled me, so to speak. And I really realized I knew very early on in my life that humility was not easy, and it was very good for me. When I was humbled, like even in martial arts in the early years, when I went to a tournament and somebody, I remember I'd go to tournaments. I always did well. I always medaled somehow and got, but I rarely did I finish first. It was always one or two guys that were just so good and they humbled me. They didn't destroy me. They just humbled me, and it was so good for me. The man or the person that grew out of that was so good, and I realized I need to remember that in my life, and all of you should, like all of us, like being humbled is a not a call to stop doing something, but to continue and grow from it, right? So, I think I realized maybe without the intellectual. I understood it as a feeling, but not maybe intellect. Now I can intellectualize it and understand what was going on, but at the time, I just knew it felt really good to get that out of me in a way that I could control. Like not in an out of control way, but in a controlled manner. I can get my tension, my anger, my frustrations of life because there was no such thing as Joe work-life balance. Like you went to a job, it was stressful, you know, this is, there was no I'm laughing now because it was people were angry. They were just angry. This is how I am. I'm angry. That's it. Like,
If you would have
instead
talked
of
about
looking,
work-life balance in the 80s or 90s, no one would have had any idea what you were like. It didn't exist. It
you have a
wasn't the
job,
thing.
you get paid, shut
Yeah.
up. That's it. It was
Get
so
your ass to
simple.
work.
Like,
Here's your check on
yeah,
Friday.
man, it was none of that. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but that's what shaped
It
me.
just
So
was. Yeah, it just
just
was.
was. It just was.
And you
Yeah.
like so
So
you touched on it too again on the mindset. So I think you remember when we talked, I am a golfer and I've been golfing. My uncle taught me when I was 8 or 9 and I didn't play nearly as much when I was an adult, but now that my boys are grown and I've got more time, I play a lot. So what I do is go out very first thing. Like I find courses that have 6 a.m. tee times because golf should not be a 4 hour sport. I can't be there for more than 2 hours. It drives me insane. So I can play around in under two hours.
I think
Yeah.
that's what did it for me too. So now I'll do nine.
Yep.
I'll play a nine. And
Yep.
it just it's doable. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you're all good. But my point is, I got back into it, and I wanted a competitive outlet, so I joined a league that only plays tournaments. That's all they do. There's no go
Yeah.
Tuesday night and stay there for 4 hours and drink
Yeah.
beer and talk about how much you hate your wife because I love my wife.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
want to be at home with my wife. But I went to this tournament, and it was my very first one. I didn't know anybody, and I played like I was from the moon. I played worse than I've played in probably 20
Yeah.
years. And a guy in my group actually won the tournament. So I got to watch him play a really good round of golf.
Nice.
And so it was impressive to like he played so well and he was focused and like it was a he's a good golfer and he had a good day and it was fun to watch. Even though I was
Nice.
playing like I've never played the sport before, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I called my wife, and it's about a 2 hour drive to get to these tournaments because there's none here where I'm at in Cleveland. And I called my wife, and she said, "How'd it go?" And I said, "Oh, I played worse than I've played in 20 years. It was awful." She said, "Well, you sound like you're in a decent mood, which was surprising to her because I dated my wife when I was still playing baseball competitively. And
Mm,
I never understood how we could lose a game and guys could go out that night. Like, if we lost a game, it ruined my weekend. That's how competitive I am. Like, do you guys not understand
mm,
what just happened?
yeah,
But what I realized when I left the tournament, you used the word humbled, and that's exactly the word I used. I said it was good for me to get my ass kicked today by the course and see one guy in my group play really well. It was very good for me to kind of get smacked around a little bit because it refocuses you. And one thing I've noticed about successful people is when they encounter failure, they find the learnings from that failure. They find the lessons from that failure so they can use it as kind of a springboard to move forward and go, okay, that was that was a good one. And I would be shocked if you don't take that same approach in martial arts. So if you are in a match or a fight, and I'm not exactly sure what you how you refer to it, I mean, correct me wherever you need
I
to.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It's
But if you get dominated in a competition, if it were me, that would be a place I would go, hey, now that person exposed all of the things I got to work on over the next 3 months because I'm not going to let that happen to me again. And they actually did me a favor by exposing all of those things to me. That's how I would think about it,
great.
at least. Do you coach that approach? Do you take that approach personally?
So because the art that I teach, one of the reasons I love Sistema, and it's a form of Russian martial art, is that it is specifically don't focus on
Mm,
competitions. It's a military art, and it's really focused on developing skills that you need for yourself, right? And I love that because I competed so much in my life, Joe. I was like, I didn't need more competition. I liked the work on myself. I actually really enjoyed that. Some people like, and I realized when I got back into competitive circles, which is more archery, right? And you're competing against somebody or in the tournament. I realized I don't care if somebody beats me.
mm,
I don't care because I just want to win the tournament. Now, and I'm okay if somebody's more skilled and beats me, no problem. That's it. But I'm not okay with me beating myself. So that's where I draw a line. You on that day, you beat yourself.
that's
Your
exactly.
mind got in the way,
I'm
straight out.
laughing.
And
Yeah, I'm laughing
it happened
because
to me in
yeah.
archery. It happened to me in archery.
Yep.
And I said, no way. So what every listeners do, you say to yourself, how do you practice? So if I go practice at my range and I shoot a perfect 300 in archery, if I shoot a perfect round of archery, bullseyes, all bullseyes out of, and I go to a tournament and I shoot 200, that's the problem. So if you're an NFL kicker and you can kick a 60-yard field goal in practice, but you can only kick a 30-yard field goal in a game, that's the difference that you have to figure out.
Hmm.
What's the difference? Because it's the same damn kick. I understand pressure will do some, there's no doubt. But your idea is to figure out how do you bring that together so that you can do this stuff. Because that's your training. Your training is what do you have to say to yourself under extreme situations, because under extreme situations you're thinking about one thing, not fucking up. That's really it. Just don't fuck up. Like I don't care, you play baseball, man. If if you're going into the ninth inning, and you're a pitcher, I was a pitcher, like you do not, like, don't throw that don't throw the wrong pitch, right? Or throw the wrong pitch the right way, the
Yeah.
wrong way, right?
Right.
And it goes for a homer, like it's going to be a long night.
It sucks.
You're sleepless.
You're walking to the
It's
bus
a
by yourself. I've done it. Like
it's terrible.
yeah, I
It's
know the
terrible.
feeling.
Yeah. That's what so so instead of so when I go, whether it's martial, I wrestled, I didn't care. The guy, if he's better than me and has got more skills and he beats me, great. I've learned, right? And I think this is misunderstood by some martial arts, not all, but when you bow to somebody, like somebody wins, right? In a let's say a jiu-jitsu match, you're not bowing to the person, you're bowing to the superior technique. We're all benefiting by seeing it. In the military, you don't salute the man, you salute the officer, you salute
Mhm.
the rank.
Yep.
Like forget that. You're not saying you like this person, but you salute the rank of the person, right? And by being beat by somebody, you now benefit. You ever heard of a guy named GSP, George St.
Oh,
Pierre? Great,
George
great,
St.
mixed
Pierre. I
smart.
know
Yeah,
George St. Pierre. Sure.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. if you talk to his coaches, it was a documentary about him. They interviewed his BJJ coaches, Muay Thai coaches, boxing coach, all his teacher. It was not the best. He was barely the top five in the wrestling school he was at. He was barely the top five in think, but put it all together. There's just something different about him. Like that's what they all said. He said, when you're not a collection, like he was constantly being bettered.
Yep.
And look what happened. Like it does not matter. The idea of seeing it. So when I go to a competition in archery, or when I'm competing at the club, maybe not for a medal, but I want to make sure that when people watch me, when they see me, that they see that this is who I am. Like, you should be happy with, if somebody's videotaping you and you see yourself, you should be happy with this,
Yep.
right? If you're not happy with it, then that's the problem, right? I don't want to like, you see people all the time doing dirty moves, and it doesn't make you happy to do stuff like that. There's always a way to cheat or do
Right.
something, right? You want to play the game the right way, and you want to be happy with the result, that you want to be happy with the performance that you gave. That's all it can. And it can't be every day. Like, geez, Tiger Woods didn't win every match. Like, you can't win every game. There's going to be good and bad days. There's going to be good and bad bounces. So the mindset I would tell people is to think about, compare yourself to you, better yourself. Look at your score, look at how you performed, and some things you can measure just in feeling. Sometimes you finish a game, or you feel great, right? So feeling, numbers, results, the medals come if you're doing stuff right,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know
Totally agree.
but there's a slippery slope. Like, if you do too much, then you start not liking what you do. That, and you know what I mean? It's like, what's that old, more money, more problems, right? Like, there's an amount, like, no, but it's not just money, but it's also training. Like, there's an amount that I love fishing, there's an amount that I like golf, there's an amount that I like archery and martial arts. At this point now, I can train every day for a couple hours in martial arts, and I'm good. If I start doing 5, 6 hours a day, it's too much. And that me getting soft? No, it's me being 55 years old and have been done it for almost 40 years. That's enough. Like,
It's
there's an
perspective.
amount. It's
Yeah.
perspective. Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. And that's exactly the way I think about it. And we talk about it on the channel. The comparison you should be making is to yourself yesterday. Well,
Yeah.
where were you yesterday? And try to get incrementally better today, because progress typically doesn't happen in quantum leaps. It happens with
No.
consistent effort over long periods of time, with incremental growth day after day after day. And that's the challenge to it, right? It's not sexy. It's not
No.
exciting. Sometimes it can be monotonous and boring, but that's
And
where you build the skills that you take with you the rest of your life.
I was listening to some golfer. I can't remember who it was, Freddie Couples or one of the guys from a while ago. And they were saying, yeah, I usually typically shoot about 300 balls before a round. I'm like, that shoot 300 balls before his rounds
Yep.
of golf. I'm like, I can't get 300 balls in a month if I was forget about. And it's the same in archery. These guys that are like, world class, right? It's unbelievable how many arrows they will shoot a day. Like, it's more so. At one point, you're going to get good if you just do something a lot, right? But you have to do it, and you have to like it, right? So you have to know how much you can take with it before it's too much, right?
Yep.
That's
And I
that's
coached a lot of, I was fortunate that I got to play baseball at the college level. And I was
yeah.
talking to scouts, met my wife, got married, didn't wind up signing. So I never played professionally.
Hmm.
However, I was exposed to that world, and I played with and against a lot of guys that played Major League Baseball. And one of the things I noticed that was very obvious to me was the further up the food chain you got, the more basic the practice got. It doesn't get actually more complicated, it gets less complicated. You repeat the same things over and over and over again until you can do them perfectly under pressure, like you talked
The
about.
pressure.
Because, we used to call guys that could hit in the cage, but not in a game, we'd call them batting practice heroes. Like when you got someone throwing grooving 85-mile-an-hour fastballs, sure, you look like an all-star. But put them out there in the game and turn the lights on and put 5,000 people in the stands and get a guy that can throw him a fastball or a slider or a curveball, and all of a sudden he looks like a trout in the boat because his
Yeah.
mental preparation for whatever reason short circuits and he can't hack it when the lights are the brightest. And I was the opposite. I certainly was not perfect. You know, you talked about giving up a home run in the ninth. I was a closer for 2 years, so I've given up my
A
share of
lot of
hits to
pressure.
lose. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I loved it because I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. So I didn't want to sit
Yeah.
and watch someone hoping they got it done. I wasn't the best pitcher. I didn't throw harder than everybody, but I had the right mentality because I wasn't afraid of the
Yeah.
moments. And I lost.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Anyone that, to your
Yeah.
point, when I coach baseball, it's one of the things I used to tell the kids is say, it didn't matter what year it was. I'd say, who won the World Series last year? And the kids always knew which baseball team won the World Series. And I would say, yeah, they're a
Mm.
great team, huh? And they'd say, yeah, they were awesome. I'm like, they lost 60 games last year. I don't even have to look at their record. I know they lost 60 games because the math will tell you that they lost 60 games. That's the best team in baseball. And they failed at their job 60 times, getting paid millions of bucks.
Yeah.
So it's a hard
So
game. You got to learn from it.
yeah.
And you got to,
Yeah.
if you want to get good at it, you've got to be prepared to fight through adversity because you're going to face adversity in those situations, you know?
Yeah. Somebody, so I was in quite a big pressure situation. And I tend to, the one thing about me that I hate is that put a lot of pressure on me and I usually do very well and it just drives me nuts. If you really want to beat me, just put little pressure on me and it'll probably do it. But big pressure is not that I rise. So yeah, which is a good trait. Like I'm usually practice really average, but I play really good.
Hmm.
There was a competition I was at and it was just a ton of pressure, man. I mean, the commentator, nine. And like it was like it's like not even like I know the score, I know the shot. I like oh, and did you hear it? Just it was, and there was an older gentleman there that was quite a good archer, and he just looked at me. He goes, "A lot of pressure." Eh?" He goes, "Yeah," and he goes, he looks at me. He goes, "But that's your reward. When you're good, you get this pressure.
Yep.
You don't just get the trophy, you get the pressure." And he goes, "That's that. There are people here that wish they had that chance. You get an opportunity. You're in the final shoot. You have the opportunity." I'm like, yeah, and it changed. Those words changed how I see pressure. It's an honor to be able to handle that pressure. When you're a leader, you've been given the mantle of leader, and or you're it's an honor, man. You have to embrace that. It's going to have its ups and downs, but that's an important thing. So I looked at it like any kind of pressure situation, like, well, who better than me?
Yeah,
That's it.
I'm with you. I liked the pressure, and I certainly was aware of the situation. I was aware of the stakes, but it didn't bother me. Like it wasn't. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's like, okay, here we go. It's time to go. Let's get it on. You know. Um,
100%.
and I wanted to rise to the challenge. It's funny because baseball is an interesting sport in that, especially as a pitcher. Um, it's a very unnatural motion. And so you have to, if you throw whatever, 30 pitches in a day, you need at least one day off. And if you're a
Oh yeah.
starting pitcher and you throw 100 pitches, you need 4 days off. And so you have a lot of pitchers on the team, is my point. And
Mm.
when you're in college or in high school trying to go to college trying to sign a professional contract, you want to be on good teams because that's who scouts come to watch generally. And so
Yeah.
you want your teammates to be good, but you want to be better than them. So you're actually helping the people that are in competition for you, with you, get better because you need them to be good when they do play because you want to win games. And it's
Yeah.
a very interesting dynamic. And my wife never understood it until she always used to tell me, you need to be more selfish. You need to look out for yourself more. You're too team oriented. And I was like, I get what you're saying. I disagree with you. It's just not the right approach. I am telling you, the way to get farthest in life is to be a team player. I'm telling you that is the right way.
100%.
And
Yeah.
so she watched a documentary, kind of like one of those Hard Knocks documentary, but it was on
Yeah.
baseball. And it was following guys in spring training for the San Francisco Giants. And
Mhm.
so, for those that don't know, when you go to spring training, you've got probably 20 guys that already know they're on the major league roster. And a major league roster is 25 men. And so you've got five spots open, and you've probably got another 15 guys there fighting for those 5 spots. So the math tells
Yeah.
you 10 people are going to leave disappointed, 5 are going to make it. And she's watching this documentary, and they're following some of the guys that are on the bubble. And she actually I'll never forget it. She called me at work. She said, I just have to tell you 2 things because I'm watching this documentary. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And she said, one, I don't know how you lived like this for years. I literally want to throw up when I'm just watching this show. I don't know how these guys deal with this pressure. I don't know how you dealt with it.
Mm,
I said, look, their pressure's like, that's their job. They're feeding their family that way. They're under way more pressure than I ever was
yep.
in college. But I get what you're saying. And like, I loved it. Like, I loved being in those situations. And don't get me wrong, it sucks when they go bad, but I still would rather try and fail than not try at all. Like, I would always
Yeah.
rather take my shot and lose than not take my shot. And then she said, but now I understand your team mentality because the only people that can understand this are other people that are doing it. I said, exactly. You've only got a certain number of people that understand what you go through. They're the same people in the weight room with you at 6 a.m., 6 days a week. They're the same people traipsing through an airport at 1 in the morning to catch a plane or on a 12-hour bus ride to go play in a tournament. You don't know all of the things that go into that life unless you live that life. So you have that in common, even though you're competing with guys for the same job. So um, that was kind of that was in my nature to begin with, and then all I cared about when I was a kid was competing and playing sports and winning. I was a good student, and that was good. But all I wanted to do was compete, and so if I could get into those situations, that's what I cared about. And so the team
Mm,
mentality was just kind of in my DNA, and then reinforced through all the activities that I did. And you've got to
nice.
learn, if you want to be good at anything, you've got to learn to embrace the process by which you'll get good. You can't focus on the
100%.
result. You've got to focus on the process and fall in love with the process. That's how you actually deliver the result, right?
Yeah, 100%. Processes, and people say this, and it's quite cliche, but it's exactly true. People, if you don't have a process, and what's interesting is everybody's a little different. Like some people, like 30% they read, 30% they watch video, 30% they do, and they other people more doing like, and like there's a percentage that we learn the game, and that's part of what ended up happening for me I started teaching martial arts. I realized that there were a lot of people coming that, yes, they wanted to study martial arts, but it wasn't really what they wanted. You saw that they wanted to use it to better themselves.
Mm,
And now they were like, you could see that physically they were good, but you saw the problem was more in mindset. And then that's when, after I wrote my book, that's when I started kind of like a still separate branch that deals with people that want to understand all the lessons of martial arts, but without fighting, the mental truck. So it's the guy like, so give me that guy like, so it's like NBA, NHL, like you don't just want to play the sport. You need the mentality of like this. It's very small percentage of people that are willing to dedicate and have found what they love and they want to be the best at it. So it's not a physical thing now. Now they're trying to work with their mind, the mindset, perspective, process, like you just said, the process of how you go about saying, because fear plays into process. So when you know what you're worried about, like when you know, because under pressure, every fear will come right out. Every fear just jumps right out. If you're worried about failure, if you're worried about success, if you name it, it's all going to pop up. And there's so having addressed that before that is what you need. And that's where a lot of the if you watch the Navy SEAL training, and they just put so much pressure. They want you to crack. They want to know where you're going to crack.
yep.
There's some places they can deal with and some places they can't. Like, and because I mean, they know that that's what it's going to be like for the special forces. And you're only as good as you together. And we all have to know where you crack, when you crack, how you crack. It's inevitable. So this is a huge part of understanding process for elite athletes. What works for one might not work for the other, but you still need your process. And it has to work under pressure. That's the key. Like it's not just practice, you pressure test that thing. So in archery, if I want to practice pressure, it's really simple. Before I pull back my bow, I just do like 20 jumping jacks, get my heart rate up, jack up my psyche, jack up my nervous system. That's what it feels like when I have a winning shot. So you can mimic that situation. You can mimic it. It's so easy, like put any kind of all pressure is the same. I can throw you into cold water, man. Your heart rate shoots straight up, your nervous system is quite jacked, and then get you out of the cold water and say, okay, now make a throw a fastball.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
for
that's
sure.
pressure. It's like it's sudden and it's quick. And when you talked about it was something I wanted to mention about people often look at a hero and they'll marvel like at the ability and stuff. I've talked to many heroes. We're talking Victorian Cross stuff, like big, medals that you usually get only when you die, but somehow you lived and they gave it to you, right?
Mm.
And it's like, and you talk to these people and they're like, people gave me this medal. Like, you think I wanted this? Like, I had no choice. I had to run across an open field of machine gun fire because staying here meant I was getting blown up. Over here, I had a chance. And because I just said these guys are probably drunk anyway because we've been night of drinking like we did. They're probably drunk. They probably couldn't hit me, and I happened to make it to the other side, and somehow I got this incredible medal. A lot of the things I've done are very similar. Okay, I when you embark on a journey and you just do what's needed to be done, like you're a parent, think of it. Like, what did you know about parenting? What did I know about parenting? It's like, but I just did things out of necessity.
That's right.
Like you just figured it out, and then then they give you a medal. That's what it's like in the middle. It's like I had no choice but to figure this out. It's not like I said, I want this medal. You did what needed to be done and then somebody noticed. Like I'm sure there's a million wonderful people doing wonderful things out there that nobody notices all the time.
Oh, for
A
yeah,
quiet guy just getting it. Every company's full of it. Look around. There's not a lot of fanfare. There's not a lot of stuff, but he's quietly, I'm sure you've seen that in sports teams. These guys that just show up and just get shit done. They just get it done. And you're like quietly, they're the backbone of the team.
yep.
And they're it's critical. It's critical. It's not always the fanfare. So a lot of for listeners, a lot of people just put yourself out there. Put yourself on the line and watch what happens. And you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish when there's so much skin in the game. Don't be stupid about it. I mean, you can be real calculated about it, but put yourself on the line. You'd be surprised. It's how we grow up. Like we evolved. Like we were on an island. Nobody knew what was on that island. Some guy hopped on a log and floated there. Could have drowned. Could have eaten by sharks, but somehow got there. Like he said, well, and then so it's that kind of stuff. Like take a chance, not a calculated chance, but you still nonetheless if you want to win the game, you gotta at least score one run. Like you
Yeah,
gotta
right.
not, yeah, you gotta get at least score a run. So to me, understanding yourself when you show up to martial arts and truly understanding what happens to your body physically and mentally, and then slowly, methodically, little improvements every day making sure you're growing, but also your motivation is good so that you keep going, that you keep doing this because the good stuff happens 5, 10 years down the road, right? It happens over time, like you said, right? So getting as a teacher, part of me is getting students to, first train for a year and train for another year. And let this thing grow till it's a part of you. The benefits of anything, tennis, piano, music, golf, it it's over this long. Let it grow. Let it change you. Let it do wonderful stuff. Be an artist with the thing. Be an artist. Like you show us your expression. You remember that golfer? What was his name? He had a big beard. He didn't look like a golfer. What was his name now? It's back in the 80s and 90s. He's the most unusual golfer. He looked like a biker. And he won a few of the tours. Like it wasn't a common golfer, but I love seeing everybody's own expression of their swing. As long as you mastered your swing, if it works for you, there's no
Yep,
right or wrong. You hit the
exactly.
ball straight, you hit the ball straight. You can do it again and again and again. That's yours.
We always say
right?
there's no style points on the scorecard.
No, no, just get it done. And consistency wins. If you can do it over and over and over again, same in archery. If you get it done and you can do it every weekend, you got to figure it out for yourself, right?
Yep.
So these kind of things, are it didn't happen magically. Like I want listeners to know, like I'm 5'8", 180 pounds, man. I'm like, I'm not sorry. I learned a lot of hard lessons and a lot of patience, a lot of grit. Don't get too down on yourself. Just keep going slowly, make good friendships, love the things that you do and grow with them in life. It's a real secret to happiness as you get older, right?
Yes, for sure. Let's spend a little time talking about your book. I know a lot of these themes that we're talking about or have been talking about are in
Yeah,
your book. So for listeners, the
yeah,
book's called Eudaimonia, The
yeah.
Highest Human Good. And Emmanuel said when he contacted us, he wanted to simplify complex ideas on happiness, on courage, on honesty, on strength, and service, and distill those into timeless wisdom. So that's the point of the book is to try to distill core concepts of life into easy to digest and practice ways for the reader. So there's my
Exactly.
there's my setup.
Yeah, I'm just really trying to, Joe, just really saying, look, guys, here's my life. Here are all the stories. Fun, some of them are so funny, okay? Really, they're hilarious stories. But they taught me lessons. And I bet you each one of your listeners is the same thing. Your life is your teacher. That's a teacher. So yes, there's teachers you're gonna go get, but life has been a teacher for you. And listen to those lessons. They're going to play over and over again until you figure it out. So listen to those lessons. What did they try to teach you? And then go on with it, right? And then find teachers, of course, right? So the world is external, but it's also internal, right? So it happened for you. So I think by reading it and how personal some of the stories are, I said it was a huge book. It was about 3 times the size of what you see now. The when I wrote it and an editor looked at it and he goes, honestly, it's a really good book. He goes, but if you want a lot of people to read this, and if you really want to, he goes, this book has, and he knew me, he kind of got to know me. And he said, you're a real minimalist at core. I'm not, I don't believe you need a lot of things to be happy in life, but the stuff that is around you, you should love it. It doesn't matter whether it's the clothes and the people. You need it small, but something that you can enjoy, right? So really distilled the book down into a lot of fundamentals that I hope people inspires them to look back at their life, look back at the things they do, and look for lessons that were missed, and then grow from it, right? Because that to me that was when I read that with from Aristotle about virtues, our human virtues, and how they're formed at 51, which is like people think 50s, and you're like, no, man, like he's exactly right. The things that I say yes to are yes. The things I say no to are no. Like those, the virtues are there. I know what I stand for very clearly. So it's a great time as you get older, but it's not just as you get older. I have many students that I train in this that are in their 20s, and I force them to look at these things. If the person is ready, it's not an age, it's an attitude, it's a perspective. If you're ready for it, it's all there. So the book is a distillation of my stories and lessons, and hopefully that other people can find it in theirs as well. And this idea of mastery, or this idea of self-development or personal development, it doesn't have to be so heebie-jeebie. It doesn't have to be so trendy. It doesn't have to be so, it could just be like, how did the ancient philosophers do it? Walk around and just reflect. Like we can take the benefits of those things and say, why don't we become a philosopher of our own life? Why am I doing this? You know, maybe I don't know. Like, Socrates, maybe I know that I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. Some profoundness there.
Well, the other thing about it is in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter in the end? 100 years from now, everyone who knows us is going to be gone.
Yeah.
No one will
Oh
know
yeah.
what we did, that we existed. And I've used that statement a lot to kind of drive that point home with people. I now use the Queen of England as an example. So Queen Elizabeth II was on the throne for over 60 years. Literally
Yeah.
everyone in the world knew who she was. She
Yep.
was a soldier in World War II. She saw all sorts of things, people going to space, et cetera, et cetera. And I tell people, she lived one of the most consequential existences of any human being ever in the history of
Yep.
the world. Now, without Googling it, tell me when she died and name three things she did while she was alive. I bet you can't do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
if nobody can remember one of the most consequential people on the face of the earth, I can
Yeah.
assure you nobody gives a shit if you sing bad at karaoke on Friday night. Get up and sing.
100%.
Take your shot. Struggle with martial arts until you get better at it. Learn to write poetry and write shitty poems until you write good poems. Nobody cares.
100%.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares. Go after what you want, but you've got to go
Yeah.
after it if you're going to be
Yeah.
happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, on a bigger note, well, with this perfectly said, I'm sure I could ever say it better. But what I see now is the battle for, well, men, not women, but for men, now that we're in, getting into the 50s, and so into that age, you're like, how do I get older and not be grumpy? Like, I don't want to be grumpy. I truly don't, because the rate of change is so fast. How can you not? Human beings naturally don't like to change, right? So now, and I see the rate of change going so crazy, and so I'm really, believe it or not, Joe, I'm trying, man. It's like it's real work. It's not like a side thing, because I want to grow up and be in my 70s and have my kids show me the latest whatever it is then. Like, it'd be like, I don't know what the cell phone will look like, or maybe it's just a hologram. I don't know. I want to be like, wow, tell me more. I don't want to be like, oh, this is garbage. I want to embrace it. I want to cultivate that. I don't want to lose that thinking as I get older. I want to be okay with little changes as I get older, right? I don't want to so that is not going to happen unless you're working on yourself. Because if you try to keep time frozen, this is what causes stress, right? It causes, that's why movement is so good for people, because by movement, your body says you're still relevant. As soon as you stay still, I told you, I don't know if I told you about my son was like telling me one day, his friend said, oh, my best day, I sat at home on the bed, TV. I didn't move. My mother brought me food. I just, the whole day I spent in bed. I said, "Oh, really? In bed, the whole they brought you food, your TV was on, you just lied there, just lied there, did barely moved." I said, "So palliative care. So palliative care is your ideal day, right?" I go that because that's what that says to me. I said, as long I want to move every day, that is not my ideal day, right? So I realized as we get older, this idea of movement and doing stuff makes you feel relevant, makes you more open to change, makes you more open to everything. So this is kind of like this idea of self-development, self-discovery, self-improvement has so much more in being a happy older guy, right? Because you don't want me grumpy. That's the last person. I'd be too dangerous to be grumpy. Last guy you want to make sure I'm happy for sure.
Well, it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption, right? Either get busy living or get busy dying. Like those are the two
100%.
options. Those are the two
Those are the
options,
two options.
you
Yeah,
know?
for sure, man. For sure.
That's
But
something we encourage all the
remember,
time. And when it's so interesting doing the podcast because I get to meet so many interesting people like you and you see commonalities. And one of the commonalities I see from people that have built successful lives for themselves is they've taken consistent action to get to where they're at. And
yeah,
that consistent action has inevitably led to I don't know, failure is the right word, but outcomes they weren't looking for, life lessons that kicked them in the teeth, whatever you want to call it. But they all
yeah,
say they're better off for having gone through it. And it was
of course.
those lessons where they learned those things that actually helped them build the successful life that they have now. That's why your story about starting at a phone company and not loving what you did, but the whole time you've got other stuff in your life, and you don't even know that other stuff is going to wind up being your primary focus and
No
or
idea.
primary source of income 15, 20, 30 years down the road. Yet here you are, and you never would have been
Yeah.
there if you hadn't taken action.
So, yeah, and the decision is really simple. It's like, for the listeners now, like, if I asked, oh, and women, would you die for your kids? I think everybody would say, without a doubt, of course I would die for my kids. But what
Which
if
I
they
got three.
asked
Which
you,
which kid?
oh, yeah, yeah, I know. Good, that's supposed to. Um, but if you ask the same question, what if they said to you, "But would you live for me?" Now that's different because
Mm,
and living means taking care of yourself
yep.
mentally, physically. Like live for them. They don't want you to die. I know you will. One day we all will. We can't beat that. We can't fight. We have to face that. But the reality is, you so clearly said, "I'll die. I'll die for my kid for sure." But why won't you say that quickly? You'll live for them. You're not taking care of yourself. That's making that decision. Live for them. It might be the best reasons, you know. This was the story with my father. He passed away when he was 70, but at 65, he had diagnosed with lung cancer. And he actually that the 5 years of life he got, he beat it, by the way. He beat lung cancer. He had one lung, but he beat it. Pneumonia got him in the end. But
Mm,
the point is he beat lung cancer, which is crazy. That 5 years that he was still around and died to, but made it to 70, he saw three grandkids born.
mm. Oh
Think
man,
about
yeah.
that. Yeah, man, like that, it's like that. Like it's these are taking care of yourself now, mind, body, soul, the whole bit gives you that little bit extra, but you don't know what's going to be in that little extra. There could be a million reasons why you want to be around. So take care of yourselves, all of you. Take care of yourself. The best reasons to be alive could be right there. And it was for my father, seeing those grandkids born, man, incredible amount of joy. So
Yeah, that's
really
great.
important stuff
When you'd said it earlier
for
when we
sure.
were talking, you had said, how many of you out there aren't happy about whatever, something, what you're
Yeah.
doing, your
Yeah.
job, whatever it is, right? And everybody's
What you
so
do,
quick.
just with what you do, what you
Yeah.
say, what you do, like even in martial arts and life.
Yeah. And everybody's so quick to say yes. And then you ask, what are you doing about it? And the room goes silent.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
wild to me. And we all fall into like, look, I get it. I'm not perfect. I don't spring out of bed every morning and say, I'm going to make myself a little bit better every day. I'm not Captain America or Johnny Positive
No.
or any of those things. However, I think I do a better job than most people of kind of inspecting what's going on in my life and saying, you know what, I'm not doing a very good job of X right now. And I got to focus on X and make it better. And then when I fixed X, then I look around and go, well, now I'm not doing a very good job at this. So I'm going to keep working on
Mm.
this and make this better. And if you just do that over and over and over again, it's amazing the progress you can make and the life you can build if you just keep taking steps forward.
Man, what else do you have to do, Joe? Honestly,
Right.
like what else do you have to do? Like what? Watch like a movie? Like seriously, like we're not saying it like we have so much time in our day. Like I know, yeah, we work, but you still got tons of time. Still got tons of time. Come on, you got enough time to work on yourself. I mean, and when you look at the way the average person now spends their day, there's so much wasted time. I mean, we're not talking about profound time. We're talking about 30, 40 minutes a day to read a book, say a prayer, do some writing, take a little bit of a course or something that will stretch you or do an activity that you love. This is not hard. It's not mind-boggling. We're talking about a 1% improvement or a 2% investment in something. It's not anything that will hurt you or anything that will, like, so you don't have an hour on TikTok. Okay, so you've got 45 minutes instead. Like, come on, you still got plenty of time. You still got plenty of time. Like it's such an excuse, right? Like if I look at if I remember, we're talking back in the 90s. I think people got came in for an 8-hour shift at the phone company. I don't think they worked 5 hours. And people this is just an illusion that you think people can sit still and do a job. They're going to find a way of, it's just you check out, right? You only have an amount of mental or physical, and then you just check out, right? So this idea of the 8-hour day, I've always thought was an illusion. I mean, best productivity for me was in the morning, and then lesser as the day went on, right? So I think it still exists, maybe worse now than it was before.
Yeah, and I think it used to be I was fortunate that working in grocery stores, there's always something to do in a grocery store. And I would tell, someone would say, well, there's nothing left to do. I'm like, dude, look
There's
around.
always something, man.
You could always be cleaning something, you could be organizing the back room, You could be facing the store. You could be building a display. You could be making signs. You could be checking prices. You could be doing go backs. There's always
Oh
something
yeah.
to do in a grocery
Yeah.
store. But now, with the pervasiveness of the internet and the social media sites that exist, it's so easy for people to get lost in kind of mindless activities for hours at a time.
Yeah.
And like, that's not helping your cause. It's not making you better.
No. A
Unless
lot
you're
of the
listening to
kids,
Salty Ginger talk. Clearly, that's a productive activity. However,
I saw a lot of the kids even here in Toronto that work in the grocery stores, they've got earpieces in, they're like they're listening to music or something while they're working, right? It's like you're not there, man. Like you're not like
yeah.
you're not engaged, right? You're not there. Like so that's a whole other ball game for sure. But for myself, getting to the point where you're tired of yourself is you need to see that way before that happens. Like it's like changing your oil. You don't wait for those lights to go on. I mean, you've waited too long, right? Um, in athletics, that condition where the athlete is overtrained, you can't let them get there because that's where their injuries go right up, right? You got to make sure that as a trainer, as you can clearly see the injuries of a trainer, lack of good training and good rest as compared to overexertion, right? So most people are just they're overtrained, right? There's a great value in chilling out your nervous system, right?
Yep.
So there's a law of diminishing returns. You're doing something, but if you're reading, it's not going in. It's just you're reading words, right? It's like you want to make sure that that's why when I read, I read, but I don't read a lot. Like I read 4 or 5 pages, whatever it is. And because I wrote a book, I think this is what I try to really understand what was written. There's a lot of work that goes into each page,
Mm,
and I appreciate it. And I'm like, I want to make sure that especially if I like the book, I want to really get the feel of what they're trying to communicate to me and then think about it all day long. I'm not just trying to take these ideas and feed them. I'm trying to understand them and bring them into my life. What could I learn from them? How can I show gratitude to a teacher is by taking the time to just listen to what they say, right?
yep.
But people not listening, if you go to like some of the Buddhist temples and things like that, they have this like gong, boom, and they hit the gong, and it's just it reminds people now it's time to listen. Right? I wish I could walk around all day.
Just
Just
take
go
your little gong
gong.
with you.
Now's the time not to talk, to listen. Listen. Nobody knows when they should be
Uh,
listening. They're just always talking. It's like, how do you know when to listen? When you're listening is when you're learning, when you're understanding. When you're
yep.
talking, you're not doing that. So.
Yeah, for
Maybe
sure.
that's another maybe I'll buy you a gong, Joe, and you could just have that and just walk around all day with your kids. And, oh,
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, so one of the things we always do on the show too is so we've talked about a lot of stuff. I've asked a lot of questions, but we always want to give our guest kind of the open floor to talk about anything that we haven't talked about that they think is
yeah.
important, any subjects, any stories, anything like that. And if you don't have anything, no big deal, no pressure. But we kind of just open it up and give the floor to our guests for the last little part of our show. So the floor is yours. Anything we haven't talked about, or anything you want to reiterate, or anything you want to make sure the audience hears?
No, no, man. My message is simple. Like be an artist. Be an artist for your life, right? Um, Master yourself. Take the time, sit down, right? Um, Minimalize your life. Get rid of stuff that are unnecessary. Start with your closet and then progress on your garage, yourself. Um, Write. It's great to write. Even if you don't have to publish a book, you can just write. It's what's on your mind. It's so many filters. That's the biggest problem. How many times I walk in Toronto, I watch, weird people. I'm like, I bite my tongue. There's so many things in my mind that I can't say them, like as a father, so many times as a teacher, you realize you spend a lot of time here and it never comes out. And after a while, everything stays in here. So writing, even if you hate your kids, you hate your this, you put it down, you can throw it away. It doesn't matter. You can rip it up. But you learn to create a channel from your brain to paper, get it down and get it out of you. So that at least you don't bottle, because a lot of anxiety is you have stuff in your head never comes out. So minimize your life. Write a little bit every day. Okay. Think about the three levels of human ability: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Just give them a chance. They're there. You have the Dalai Lama, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, and everything in between. Like develop those skills. Like they're both power. It's power, right? It's real power, and just think about it for a second. And it should inspire you that as humans, we have an incredible amount of ability, and each one has this, right? And what's the overbearing thing is I believe in my core that every person was born for a very special reason. And it might not be anything profound to somebody, but it's a very special reason for all of us. And rather than, you'll never hear that, you'll never find that if you're not looking. So by removing distraction, by quieting your life, by clearing your mind, by minimalizing, you're now able to maybe hear what you should be doing, what what the whisper is. If you don't know that, right? It's not always easy to find, but you want to create that because happiness lies in finding your life's purpose. And it does not have to be anything profound. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be profound. There's a lot of people that are doing incredible things. So this is kind of my message, right? I use martial arts, I use archery, I use lots of things, and I just keep rolling with it because I realize the benefits to myself. And then the benefits shoot out to everybody else as well, right? And you try to inspire as a teacher, right? To maybe if they see you doing it, then maybe they'll want to do it and they'll find some happiness in their life, and then that's and then in the whole process, people get to know who you are, which is that's the worst thing is to pass away from this world and nobody knew who you were, like really knew who you were. Share with people who you are. It's beautiful. It's nothing to hide about. This is who they were. And that way they say, I knew this person. I knew exactly what they stood for and what they meant and what they were trying to do in their life, right? That's my hope for everybody. That's my message.
I love it. Plus, it'll help you from keeping it to becoming a grumpy old man, right?
No, don't be a grumpy old man, man. I'm telling you,
Oh, well,
heaven
great
forbid
stuff,
you have a lot
Emmanuel.
of,
Yeah. Really,
yeah, no.
really appreciate you coming on the show. Really appreciate how kind of direct and easy it is to follow the things that you've learned and put into your book. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing them with our listeners so that they can apply those things and make their lives better. So, what a positive message! And we were super glad to have you on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, guys. So great interview there with Manuel. He was dropping all sorts of knowledge. I love that we could just kind of ask him a brief question and he kind of dove right in and started talking about the important things in life, taking action, improving yourself on a regular basis, keeping in mind that there's three different areas that you really need to focus on: physical, mental, and spiritual. And you want to improve yourself in those when you can. You want to live an existence that's meaningful for you and to always kind of improve yourself. So, great message from him. We've got linked to his book in the show notes. And make sure you check that out because there's a ton of valuable information in there. So, really appreciate you stopping by and checking us out. Make sure you head over. James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our podcast episodes are available there. Links to all of our social media accounts are available there. And we have a newsletter that we publish every weekday that you can subscribe to there as well. And please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Super helpful for us. We're going to keep bringing you these high caliber people to help you think about your life in a different way, to help you change your mindset, to help you go after the things that you want. So make sure you check out the next episode. We've got another great person on sharing their perspective on those things. Appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you on the next show.